Good morning. So we're the start of this week, and after taking a look at what's coming up, some of you have probably noticed that the second peer review assignment is due this week. And as you can see in the instructions, and I'll talk a little bit over here, what we're looking for, or what I'm looking for in this particular week, is for you guys to write about correlates of crime and why it's important that theory explains them, right? So if you look at the assignment requirements, I want you to look at three, any three that you choose, and describe, what is happening with the correlate, right? And then you just give an explanation of like why it's important or what kind of patterns are emerging, right? Explain what they mean, and then tell me why criminological theory has to do this assignment. As a reminder, right, so this assignment is part of the final term paper, but you're only looking at 12 points here, so it's not a lot of points on stake, so just keep that in mind. And also, so let me give you an example of what a successful answer is going to look like. So the first thing is that when we are talking about like a correlate, right, a successful answer or a good example of one, right, is let's say that someone selected biological sex, right? And so someone's telling me about biological sex. I want to know what is it. So we're talking about someone's like anatomy, how they're born, and in standard society, right? If we're talking about biological sex, someone is male or female, right? And so when we think about like what kind of patterns that we end up seeing, we would see that that males are more often than not than females to commit crime, to be convicted, and show up in the criminal justice system, especially for violent kinds of crimes, right? Although maybe we see that female offenders are more likely to do things like prostitution or theft or something like that, right? Whatever the pattern is, right? So I want you to do that for each correlate that you select, right? So tell me what it is, explain the patterns that we see. And then do the same for something like age, right? So we think at age, age, we typically see that for a lot of like street level crimes, we see that younger people, ages from like, 15 to 25 are more likely to commit street level crime than older people, right? But, maybe for like other types of crime, we see that like if you're in 40s or 50s, right, that you're more likely to see those offenders commit older crime, right? So what I'm looking for in each of these, right, is for each correlate to tell me what the correlate is, what is the observed pattern, right? And then at the end, summarize why theory should be able to explain these patterns of crime, right? So that's it. Pretty simple, straightforward. You can see kind of some of the examples that I posted of final papers of what a good and bad explanation of a correlate is. And then I'd also offer a friendly bit of advice. So if you guys look at the papers that I've posted so far, one is excellent. It's one of the best papers that I've ever graded for this course. The other, some of the others are, kind of like whatever, and the other one's like just awful. You will notice that the worst papers tend to just cite my videos, right? Which suggests that all their knowledge and reading and comprehension comes from watching my videos. And they oftentimes will just like cite, or they'll give verbatim answers of, like what I said in the video. And I was looking through some answers, I noticed that some people did that, right? Where they just basically said what I said. And that is not acceptable, even if you're citing me correctly, right? Note that you're required in the final paper to cite 10 academic resources from like journal articles and stuff like that. That does not include my videos, right? If you were reliant on my videos, if you were not reading the book, if you were not reading outside articles that I posted or doing your own research, you were setting yourself up for a position to fail the paper and fail the course. Do not cite only my stuff, right? If you are solely relying on my stuff, such as the paper that got an F in this class, you will fail. And that's mainly because if you're only relying on that, you're not doing enough work to understand the material, right? And that's what it comes down to. But with that said, I'm happy to answer any questions, and we can talk a little bit more about grading. I think, when you guys are grading and reviewing your peers at this, right, keep in mind that you can only evaluate what is on the paper. You cannot infer someone's knowledge, because if they knew it, surely they would have written about it, right? So whenever you're writing, and how I'm grading, and how you should be thinking to yourself when you're writing your papers and stuff is, am I identifying, whatever the component is? Am I listing it? Am I defining what it means? And am I explaining that to someone else, right? Because one can take a word, right, and then define it, like we look up a dictionary definition, but then they always offer the use of it in a sentence or the explanation of what that means, right? That is going to be the most effective way to communicate your knowledge, and something that I recommend for all students to do. But for now, hope you guys are off to a good week, and I'll see you guys in the next video.